So, how do readings work? If you actually don't have any dead people that you want to talk to, and what you really want to know is what might be happening in your life or what some outcomes might be if you're faced with decisions, how do those work? So, a little background before I explain how that works for me. Again, I'm not an expert. I'm just telling you what's worked for me for my whole life since I've been doing this. It may be completely different for another intuitive. So, for me, I've always seen our lives as a like a branching path. So, we are the middle, we're sitting right here, and lines go out from all of us. And one line might be your family, one line might be your children, one might be your relationships, one might be work, one might be your health. And so all of those lines, to my understanding, are based on things that are in motion for you right now. So we follow those threads out as far as they go, and your intentions around them give an indication of how they might end or turn out, or what possibilities might be for those. We also can factor in other people's already determined decisions. So if someone else has made a decision around something that affects you, that information might come up in your reading. So a person, when they sit down with me, I'm not going to ask them any questions except for one. I'm going to ask them, what direction do you want me to look? So we have to have a place to start. So assume that if you walk into the library and someone were to say, pick me out a good book, you'd ask, what kind of books do you like? You just got to know where to start, right? You've got the entire library. So I need to know where you want me to start. It can just be, I need some information about my children, or I've got a job thing coming up and I'd like some information around that. An intuitive should never ask you more questions than that. And if they do, like I said, do not give them your money. I will usually meet people in person. I can do it over the phone. I can do it in chat. I can do it in email. Doesn't really matter. My connection is to you, and that's the connection to the information. So when someone calls, let's say that they meet me in person, and I usually meet at coffee shops, or maybe we'll meet for a drink. And then the person comes in and I'll introduce myself and I'll ask them just a couple of random questions that have absolutely nothing to do with the reading. How was your drive? How's your week been? Vague niceties. And it gives me a chance to kind of connect to them, and for my guides to connect to their guides. They probably already are, but yeah. So once that happens, that's when I ask them, what direction do you want me to look? And I don't want to know more than that. So from there, we start pulling those threads. So let's use a hypothetical. So someone comes to me and they have the potential for two different jobs. They've interviewed for both, they've been offered one, but they're not sure about the other. They've had the interview, they had the second interview, and they don't know if the person's going to call them back. So in that reading, it might come up that, all right, they've already got that first one in the bag, right? They're just that the people offering them the job are just waiting on them to accept it. What they want to know is what's happening with the other one. So are there other people in the running for that job? These are things that are already known. These are things that have already happened. Chances are that whoever else applied for that job has already had their interviews and are in the running, and they just want to know, where did I stack up in that list? Some of that information is usually available. It can be around selling a house. They've considered putting their house in the market. When is a good time to sell? I can potentially see when, for how long into the future I can see them in that house. So for instance, we have an elderly friend who I just don't see here next Christmas. I see them here this Christmas. I don't see them here next Christmas. That doesn't necessarily mean that person is not going to be here next Christmas. That means that if that person were to continue on the trajectory that they are on right now, so for instance, maybe they aren't taking care of their health, maybe there's something going on with them that hasn't been diagnosed yet, and once medical assistance steps in, that whole outlook can change. So readings are very much based on the day and the time that you have the reading, because free will. We all have free will. You might decide to go a completely different route with selling your house, in which case me telling you how long you're going to be in your house is completely wrong. Not because it was wrong when you saw me, but because you've changed your mind with your free will. So we're only reading information that is available at the time of your reading. All of this can change, and I give everyone that disclaimer when the reading starts. So the big things that a reading can pick up are health issues. Is there an accident that might be coming? Is your spouse having an affair? There's so many things that can come up in readings that can be really helpful for planning. There are other types of readings too. So non-standard readings that I've given. I had a friend whose father was in a coma, and they weren't sure if he was going to come out of it, and they were trying to determine whether or not to keep him on life support. So she called me and said, do you think there's any way that you can journey to my dad and see if he's there? They show brain activity, but he's not waking up and we don't know why. So I'm like, yeah, let's try. I'm game. I don't know what the limits are of things until we actually try them. So I did the shamanic journey, and I found him sitting in a room that was really quiet. And I just said, hey, I'm a friend of friend's name. Um, your family wants to talk to you. What's the deal here? And he was like, it's just so quiet here. It's so quiet. It's so nice here. And I said, well, it's up to you. If you want to stay here, you can stay here. Your family understands that. You haven't been well, but they really want a chance to say goodbye to you, and they want a chance to talk to you one more time before you go. And he was like, yeah, I guess. So I finished the journey, and it's late at night. I usually do this work late at night when people are asleep, because I found that they tend to try to wait up for me. It's just easier this way. So I call her the next morning to tell her, and she said, we talked to my dad last night. He woke up about 3:30 in the morning, which was hours after I had talked to him in the journey. And he said, I met your friend, the tall lady with the long black hair. So does it work? Yeah, I've seen absolute evidence that it works. Can't tell you how, but yeah, readings definitely work.